Namo Adita Phat. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The third mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I vow to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I am determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness of myself and others, I am determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. Our Dharma lesson this morning is The Intruding Sense of Self by Lumpur Pasano, and it's from Beginning Our Day by the monastics of Abhayagiri Monastery. It is uncanny how the sense of self tends to intrude on everything, whether it is in our meditation, when we are working, doing chores, in a group, or by ourselves. That sense of self keeps rearing its ugly head and creates suffering and a burden that we carry with us. Sometimes we think that coming to live and practice in a monastery is solely about relinquishing the world, but the heart of relinquishment is giving up of the self and the perception of self. Upon very close examination, the feeling, the projection, and the perception of self is nothing more than smoke and mirrors, and does not have any real substance. We have this self-referential obsession, comparing ourselves to others, worrying about how we are doing, how others perceive us, or how we perceive ourselves in relationship to the past, present, and future. And it becomes incredibly convoluted. If we take a good look, we can appreciate how much of a burden all of this is. I believe this sense of self-obsession has never been as strong as it is now in modern culture. Before, most people's sense of self had to do with relationships, one's relationship to family, village, or tribe. But in modern society, everything ends up being about me. In our practice, we are trying to recognize this perception of self, seeing how we keep buying into it, giving weight to that feeling or perception, and recognizing that each building block of self is simply an impermanent phenomenon. It isn't a matter of trying to get rid of the self or annihilating it in any way, because it's not something that is solid or substantial anyway. That's why we reflect on the 5 khandhas: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, seeing them as impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. When we see the 5 khandhas for what they are, we gain insight into their true nature and let go of our investment in them, which is not a rejection or annihilation, but a clear seeing. To be free of the world and worldly tendencies, we need to take leave of the world. Taking leave of the world means taking leave of the self-making, I-making habit. In the Buddha's idiom, when we buy into the notion of self, it is an affirmative action we are doing. Ahankara, mamankara, mananusaya. The I-making, my-making, based on the underlying tendency of conceit. It is the action of getting ourselves wrapped up in the perceptions of self and believing and these perceptions. As we go about our day, we can reflect upon, investigate, and challenge these assumptions about the self and be willing to work with them over time. These assumptions are deeply ingrained in the mind, so examining them, making this process conscious, and being aware of that self-perspective is a central part of our practice. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning.